Welcome to the LTH product briefing. Today I'm joined by Will Norton of SimplyAgree. Will is the CEO and co-founder of SimplyAgree. Thank you very much and great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So, Will, can you share with the audience a little bit of background about yourself and about the product and how you got to founding the company?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I practiced for about 6 years in Nashville, Tennessee as a transactional attorney, practicing mainly venture capital and M&A law. Myself and my co-founder are both transactional attorneys, and I think both experienced the pains of trying to close these large, complex transactional deals. And so we got together to say, what would a product look like that could help streamline this process, fit really closely and would be tailored really closely to the workflows that users are already using today, but could be really simple and easy to adopt to start to bridge the gap towards more automation on these transactions.
It's something that resonates well with me, having been a former corporate and private equity lawyer. So I recognize the issue. Why don't we jump into a quick demo for the users where you can show some typical use cases of the application?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So what you're seeing on my screen right now is the dashboard you get when you log into SimplyAgree. Basically, you can look at all of your closings that you currently have ongoing in any given period of time. And basically, each of these boxes you see on my screen is a separate closing with all of my deal documents, my signatures, any closing binders that I built on those deals. So you can think of us as being a closing management tool, very specifically focused on providing all of the documents and signatures and closing binders for these deals. Typically, we integrate with existing firm systems really closely. So we'll support single sign-on, integrate with document management systems like iManage and NetDocuments, and then also provide integrations with tools like DocuSign if you want to use it for electronic signing. And the idea is we want to help a law firm support their clients to quickly generate signature packets, collect those signatures via handwritten signatures or e-signing, compile your signatures into your final executed agreements, and then build a closing binder. It's also important to note that for a lot of the deals that we support, those deal documents are often fluid and still being finalized while they're collecting signatures. So attorneys also have the flexibility to update and move to a newer version of their document as they collect their signatures and then finalize their agreements over the course of that closing process. So what you see on my screen here is what a particular transaction closing looks like in SimplyAgree. We have the documents on the left side of the screen that you're collecting or that you need to deliver for the closing or for the closing binder. For each of those documents that are being signed, we have a number of signatures that are being collected for each of those documents. And then on the right side of the screen, we build out a list of signatories, both individuals and entities that are signing on the deal. Oftentimes in these deals, you may have an individual that's signing on behalf of multiple entities. And so we'll keep track of that and make sure they receive all the signatures they need when they're ready to sign their packet. What it looks like to identify and assign signatures to these documents is you just click into a document, select a signature page that needs to be signed. SimplyAgree really quickly scans that page and identifies any existing signatories from this deal that it was able to recognize on the page. So you're basically building out a list of signatories either at the beginning of the deal or over the course of the deal, and then we're automatically identifying whenever one of those shows up on a signature page. And then these signature assignments will then determine which pages are included in each signer's packets and how many signatures we need to collect for each of those documents. Once we've got all of our signatures assigned here on our main overview page, we can easily create packets for either all of the signers on the deal or any particular signers. For each of those signers, can see who they're signing on behalf of. If you need multiple copies of signatures, if you're collecting handwritten signatures or original signatures, you can do that. And then we also give options to collect signatures, as I mentioned, either via e-signing or you can collect handwritten signatures if you'd prefer. We also give the option, we know attorneys are very thoughtful about how they communicate with their clients around this closing process. So they can either choose to email things directly to their client, or if they just want to send it to their email, if the attorney just wants to communicate directly via email with their client, they can do that as well. For the purpose of this example, I'll show you electronic signing sent directly to the signatory, to the person who's signing the page. And just like in DocuSign, if you've done e-signing there, you're just basically going to drop the e-sign fields that you need directly onto the page. If we generate signature pages in SimplyAgree, those e-sign fields are automatically added, but attorneys can either choose to use signature pages that they've generated in Word or generate their own signature pages in SimplyAgree.
All right. And then does this automatically create a DocuSign document?
So yes, that's correct. So now when I If I provide a message to the signer and I give the email of who I want to send this to, when I send this for signing, it's going to create the DocuSign envelope for the signer to execute, and they're going to receive a email from me as the attorney and with our firm logo on it. But behind that is a DocuSign envelope in this case because this account is hooked up with that DocuSign integration.
Got it. Got it. Makes sense.
So this is what that email would look like. We have a fictional law firm, Levin Lock and Little, here that is requested the signature. And all I need to do as the client is just click to review and sign from that email. I can have all the documents here to review if the attorney has made them available. Our client, again, is the law firm. So we leave it up to the law firm to decide exactly what they want to communicate, how they want to communicate. If those documents are still being finalized and they don't want to show the documents until they have them completely final, they can do that. And then the client just clicks the link to start the signing process. And we walk them through here in DocuSign, that traditional signing process where they can select a signature style. They can draw their own signature if they prefer. And then we'll just walk them through each of those signature pages that they can sign.
And these are just the signature pages, or is there an ability to see the entire document?
Yeah, so on that previous page, I'll go ahead and finish that signing so you can see it. On that previous page, we have the full documents available to review because I did make those available for the client. So they can actually go through and review the documents. But this is maybe an interesting nuance that's really important for understanding kind of the traditional US-based workflow for these deals. Oftentimes, those signature packets are being signed separate from the underlying agreements to give the attorneys flexibility to make changes and finalize those documents as they're collecting their signatures. If you need to know that you're going to close on a Friday, you may need to start collecting your signatures, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday before to make sure you have all the signatures you need for that closing. And that may mean there's some documents that are still in flux and just final pieces are being refined for the closing.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. You can release it later.
That's right. Yeah. So essentially what's being done in our system is being held in escrow to be compiled into the document once that closing is finalized.
All right.
So this is what the attorney would see when they log back in. Actually, when they go back to their dashboard, they'll see that their signature is available to review. And then they could also just use these progress bars to see, all right, who are the signatories that I've sent out signatures and I'm still waiting for them to be signed. So in this case, it's been sent the e-signatures, but has not signed it. Albert has signed his and they're marked as awaiting approval, meaning that I, as the attorney, can now go through and review those signatures that Albert has signed. And those are available here on this manage signatures page. So I can go through and review either each signature individually, or if I just want to accept them as is, I can do that as well. And then those will be ready to compile into my final executed documents whenever I'm ready now. You'll notice that the documents also update as we accept signatures. So if I've received all the signatures for a document, I can mark that as final, and that will just mark that document as executed. And then if there are any documents that I believe may have been updated over the course of this closing process, if I use the document management system integration, I can just automatically sync to pull in the latest version of that document. So I can really quickly just check all of my documents, see if there's a new version available. And then if there is, I can pull that in. And if not, then I can go ahead and compile this into the version I currently have. And then I can always manually upload documents as well at any point in the closing too.
Great.
So that's the overview of the signing part of this process, getting everything compiled. I can insert any exhibits or schedules, but then usually the last step in this process is creating the closing binder. An important point to note is you don't have to get your documents signed in SimplyAgree to create closing binders in the tool. So we do have sometimes legal assistants or paralegals who are not part of the signing process, but are responsible for creating the closing binder in the deal. If that's the case, they can simply upload their final executed documents and just jump straight into building the binder. So again, we want to be really modular and allow you to use just the portions of the tool that are most useful for your deals. So this is an example where I just uploaded executed documents and I want to build a binder. And it's very simple to do that. We just basically give a drag and drop interface to tell us the order that you want for your documents for your binder. You can create headers and subheaders for all of your documents just to kind of categorize them and order them. We also give a bunch of options for how you want to, if you want to edit the format for the index, we can do that really easily as well. And then you build your closing binder. It's typically very quick, maybe 30 to 60 seconds, and we'll have a binder built for you. And then while that's building, I'll mention you can create multiple versions of your binder for different parties in the deal. So if you're representing buy side on a transaction, but you need to create a separate version of your binder for seller's counsel, you can just create a new version, start with the buyer binder as a starting point. And maybe for this one, I'm going to create a seller binder, and then I can remove really easily any documents that I don't want to include in that seller binder for my client. So now I have my seller binder, my buyer binder, and they will all link back to the original documents. All the exhibits and schedules are going to be inserted into documents in real time based on the latest version of those documents, as well as any signatures that are collected over the course of that closing process. Particularly, I think this closing binder process, it's that time post-closing where attorneys tend to have most of their write-offs on these deals. And so the more we can reduce that time, and really the quicker you can get the document out to the client, the more likely you are to get paid for that work or just reduce any write-downs. And so one of the things we really tout is you can set up this closing binder and all the index ahead of the closing being finalized. And then as soon as you get your final signatures, you close the deal, click build, get out to your clients that same day, and then move on to the next deal where you can get paid for the substantive legal work that you're doing.
And in this case, you're giving the example of saving to iManage. I'm sure that's with a view for knowledge management and records creation, right?
Yeah, we want to play really well with all of the other systems that firms are using. And so, the document management system is often the system of record for these firms. And so we want to make it really easy to pull documents in for the purpose of getting them signed and closed, and then getting back into the document management system once the deal is finalized. And then also kind of sync really nicely over the course of the signing and closing process. Typically, there are only two versions of documents in SimplyAgree, the version that's being signed and then the final executed version. And then once we have that compiled in SimplyAgree, make it really easy to get back in that system.
Great.
You can also share a download link with clients if you want to share those directly. Often these are really big files, so sharing them via email could be an issue, and firms are having to figure out ways to send those large files otherwise. But this is what that final document will look like. I can pull this up on my screen. So we'll create a custom cover page for the binder. The attorney would have the ability to customize the name of the transaction, the party is the closing date. And then below that, we'll have an index with all of your documents. All of those are going to be bookmarked and hyperlinked. By the way, this is some of the manual work that's being done today in like a PDF editor that we can do entirely in SimplyAgree, saving a ton of time, not only on the creation of these documents and the binder, but also if you need to go back and make any edits, it's very simple then to make those edits, change an attachment or change the name of a document, and then you can rebuild it. It'll automatically be rebuilt with all those changes, final versions of the documents, hyperlinks, and bookmarks. And really, frankly, that might be even more time saved because oftentimes it's not just one version of this binder that's created, but it's a version of the binder. You make edits, you need to make it for multiple parties. It's a lot of wasted time that, it's really administrative time that we want to avoid as much as possible.
Good. Thank you. That's very helpful. How do you go about integration or implementation and adoption?
We try to make it as smooth and simple of a process as possible. So on the integration side, usually within a 1 hour call, we can set up all the integrations that we might typically have with a firm. So that would be single sign-on, document management system integration, and then also typically a DocuSign integration as well. That is assuming the multi-tenant cloud environment, the multi-tenant cloud deployment. We do offer virtual private cloud or on-premises environments. Those can take a little bit longer to just implement and set up depending on what the requirements are from the firm. But typically, for a multi-tenant cloud implementation, it's a very simple process. We can have users on the tool after, a 30-minute or 1 hour call. And then in terms of onboarding, we have a dedicated customer success team. Many of the members of that team are, former attorneys or paralegals, a couple of which were actually former users of the tool that we got to come join us and now help users who they're onboarding today. And we do very hands-on demos for practice groups, one-on-one trainings for users, and even provide live transaction guidance. So if somebody gets in the tool and they have questions, we'll actually jump on in the middle of a closing, help them walk through issues or questions they have about how to take advantage of the tool or to fit it in with that particular closing circumstance that they have. And we also provide this kind of in-app guidance so they can reach out directly to our team and ask them, as they're working. It feels like a big part of having success and getting adoption in a tool like this is building trust in users that this is a potentially chaotic, a very kind of stressful part of the transactional process, kind of everything's come together all at the last second. Showing them that you'll be there and they can use this and they're going to be successful with it is a big part of getting that adoption that we've really focused on with this tool.
Thank you so much, Will. That was a very helpful demo and good example of a closing tool and a post-closing management application. To all the viewers, we will put a URL at the bottom of the screen, which tells you where you can find out more or get in touch with Will and his team.